Yeah, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Value Ships Growth webinar. Today with me, please welcome Frida Ahrenby, CMO of Rillion, one of the fastest growing SaaS in the finance space, a company that I personally admire. And I'll tell you why in a second. And just a few words about Frida, a vast experience in the field. Being a finalist in the SaaS Leaders to Watch and Follow, one of the best CMOs in SaaS CMOs according to Pavilion. So, and definitely a LinkedIn influencer, and apparently, her son's words, she's a cool mom with a huge followership. So, please welcome Frida. Hello.
Thank you. What an introduction. I think the son and the follower, that touches my heart the most.
Of course, like me personally, that after that it was obviously something that resonated with me as well. So, Frida, would you mind like introducing yourself really quickly? Probably the audience is most of your most of your followers anyway, but just out of pure formality.
Yeah. So as you said, my name is Frida Ahrenby. I am currently working, or I am the CMO for Rillion. I've been here for 1.5 years. And just as you said, Rillion is a company that operates in the finance space, so a FinTech / SaaS company. And I head up the marketing team here at Rillion. I've been more or less building the team since I joined. So we are a team of 10 people right now. And before joining Rillion, I spent a couple of years, 4.5, 5 years at another SaaS company called GetAccept, having a similar role. And before that, I spent a couple of years at a FinTech / payment company called Bambora. So I'm a sales and marketing person who likes commercial and go-to-market focus.
And apparently a finance pro, because there's like the free free companies in the finance field, right?
I try to speak the finance language as much as I can.
Strong vertical understanding, which is obviously important. So a few words on Rillion, if you don't mind, like just obviously you have it as a CMO, 1 minute pitch of what Rillion actually does, because accounts payable is like obviously for many people probably still a little bit abstraction. So what it actually does, how it helps, if you could just basically describe it.
Yeah, so we are accounts payable and actually payments platform or solution. We have been around for quite some time, but we are the result, I would say, of a couple of mergers and acquisitions throughout the years. So it was only 3.5, 4 years ago that Rillion as a company and as a brand was born. And before that, we existed, but under different business names and brand names. But the experience that we have goes back 30 years. So what we do, accounts payable, is obviously receiving the invoices and making that process from receiving, how do you say these words in English? Approving and everything throughout the process, much more efficient and secure and clear. And then on top of that, especially towards the US market, we offer a payment solution as well. So once you receive the invoices and they are agreed and they're supposed to be paid, we can also do that through our system. And that's a product we offer only to the US market, based on the fact that the US market B2B is still kind of behind when it comes to payments. A lot of the payments go through physical checks still.
Of course.
Very interesting. So with our system, obviously you can turn that into digital automated payment process.
But like I think this is one thing that you said, and I really want to emphasize it. Outside of the thing that what Rillion does and what is the actual value proposition, what you said is like 30 years of experience, numerous companies combined into one relatively new entity, and then marketed to the world. Like
Yeah.
this inorganic approach to building SaaS and then marketing it to the world. Like so, essentially, what you're doing is you're marketing a totally new brand to the market, right? This is something that is currently of you're doing, but with a vast experience inside of this brand, right? And the kind of legacy story in it.
Yes, very well put.
Okay, so
And in that lies opportunities and challenges.
exactly, and this is what I wanted to say because like when you're building this SaaS, like generally any SaaS, I just had a great conversation with Tommy Staftsar from the Productive. He was like, there are like two inflection moments of, when you try to find the product market fit, and then obviously when you try to scale it. So is it different when you have multiple companies kind of, that were connected via mergers and acquisitions and inorganic growth? Is there that much of a difference when you basically have a product market fit, probably have a client base? There are some resources you can go through, but they're like all scattered. So which is more of a like private equity game rather than a pure VC scaling it up. So how it works? What are the challenges and what are the pros? Obviously, because I think this might be super interesting.
Mm. And just as you say, we are private equity owned, and we've been private equity owned. So we had two PE owners so far. And usually what happens then when you're within that space is obviously infrastructure gains, synergy gains, and you sort of buy competencies or capabilities to be able to build something much bigger, or hopefully bigger at least. But to answer your question, in the US, which is a super important market for us, and we've been in the US for a couple of years, but we've been there sort of feeling our way forward with different kinds of sales motions. We've been doing direct sales, partner sales, marketing-led, product-led, and so forth. And what we're doing now is that we're really doubling down on direct sales. And based on then that US is a new market for us, we are nevertheless going to be the smaller brand. So it doesn't really matter that we have only been around with the Rillion brand for 4 years, because that is not necessarily the message we come to the market with. And it's more based on what kind of product do we have and what do we offer and how does that fit the US consumer needs.
Okay, so whatever happens, you're a disruptor anyway.
Exactly. So then it's just a normal, a Nordic brand trying to make it in the US journey. That's hard enough, but nevertheless. But in our home markets, which are the Nordic markets, the old brands, if we call them the old brands, they had quite a strong position in Sweden, in Finland, and in Denmark. And even though I totally understand the reasons behind the rebrand and why we did that, we are still, a rebrand is never just a rebrand. You have to anchor it internally, of course, but even more so externally. And that is not something that just happens and is done after 3 months. It's a much, 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 much longer journey than that. So we can still today see and hear that the old brands are more known than our new brand. And we have to still, in some dialogue, say that, yes, we are Rillion, the old blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then you might debate, okay, for how many years do we need to do that? And what does it take to flip it over to only becoming Rillion? And I don't know, to be honest, but we need to keep on having a marketing strategy in the Nordic markets that still build on the old brands and still take pride in the old brands, but sort of tells the story why we are now Rillion and what's behind it.
Does it influence your strategy forward, to be honest? Because like it happened, like Rillion is like 3-4 years old, and obviously there were like other companies getting in. and the rebranding kicked in. So does it impact how you need to tell the story forward, or this is something that, yeah, this will probably like going to come up eventually, or is it still something that you need to put under the have this kind of like asterisk in all these materials and stuff, how you market it? Is this like kind of like a legacy kind of,
Yeah,
which is
we don't
commercial debt that you're having?
we don't need to still put the asterisks, as you say. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we
Okay.
still need to take into consideration that part of our marketing budget and our marketing focus needs to be very brand focused. So very much top funnel, very much talking about the brand and what we stand for and what we're here to help you with. And I mean, obviously, I can never know because I wasn't here when we were the old brands, but I can only guess that if we would have continued with the old brands, we wouldn't necessarily have to put that much focus on the brand part because we were already known.
Yeah, like you don't need to be a marketing expert to just go on your website and see that there's so much effort put into Rillion as a brand, right? Identity, consistency, a certain cohesiveness between the materials, the way they communicate and interlink with each other. So great job, and definitely as for me, I'm pricing guy obviously, but like obviously marketing is, I know a thing, but even if I didn't, it's impressive. So what is because one thing is like fighting with the legacy brand, and the second thing is maybe not fighting, but like kind of going beyond the legacy brand. But what are the other reasons regarding this heavy branding effort? Is it about like making a boring stuff cool? I wanted to ask you this question because accounts payables, accounts receivables, finance, payments, they're not like the most exciting thing in the world, like at least for most people. Obviously, for the buyers, they might be naturally, but as I
Yeah.
said, at the same time, you don't always necessarily influence only the buyers, right? You might influence like the top of the funnel with the branding effort, right? So how do you basically fight on this intersection between being cool and also being relevant for the actual buyers? Like how do you basically make boring stuff cool?
That's a super good question. I mean that's one of the reasons I would say that I accepted this job, because I thought, I mean, nobody knew, or I didn't know what Rillion was, and I wouldn't say that Rillion was very well known in the SaaS industry either. Then obviously we were known within the FinTech industry and the AP space. But I always come with the idea that you have to find ways, creative ways to stand out with the brand,
Okay.
undependent on which space you are in. And then obviously it might be easier to do sort of out of the box creative stuff if you're targeting marketing and salespeople than it is targeting finance people. So it's much more, we have to be much more funny smart or fun smart here. Because just as you say, we can't go to an event showing up, like a circus, if we don't open our mouth and are super sharp and competent when we do so.
Okay.
So it has to be a very clear balance that doing things slightly different, but it can't be corny fun. It needs to be smart fun.
Yeah, but how you do it? How you exactly do it? How you find this balance between being cringy, right? Because some B2B companies are cringy
Yeah.
versus buzzword bullshit, effectively, right? How you find the balance? What's inside of your like marketing engine and mind, not only yours but your team, that
Mm.
you strike this almost perfect balance, like in my opinion.
These are very good questions. I mean, we have I mean, it all starts from knowing our audience very well.
Okay.
So we've done a lot of research on our ICP. We've done a lot of research on our persona. We know exactly what they like. We know exactly where they hang out. And we've done a lot of interviews with like CFOs, as an example.
Okay.
And then I have my own CFO, Christian, here at Rillion, that he's my test person. Like, we test everything with him.
Okay, yeah.
So we could, we test webinar topics with him. We test headlines with him. We ask him for input. Is this cringe? Is this fun? What do you think? Take, for example, the Finance Labs report that we launched last year. That was based on conversations with him. How would you like to consume content? And he was very clear, like, base it on data. I want insights. I want it in a snackable format. I want to read it 9:30 in my morning, and it can't take me more than 15 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. Let's go and do something about that.
And do you validate this with other people, or you just use Christian as your like N1 sample
he's just an example. He's just an example, but we do turn to him quite a lot. And then in terms of the brand platform, we did a brand refresh last year as well. That was also based on several iterations, both with external focus groups and internal focus groups, so that we would get everything from the color scheme to the font to the pictures we chose to feel right for the finance professional or executive person.
Amazing. Do you know that normally SaaS companies don't do it? Like focus groups? Like,
I don't know. I do. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else, but I think that's super important. But then I also think about like the team that I build. I have a fantastic art director. She comes from the fashion industry, and that was a very active choice to bring her in, because I wanted her to constantly come, think outside the box, come from a different angle, and then merge that into, okay, what can we make of this fashion brain merged with the finance brain? What happens then?
And can you show like or describe some obviously it's visual, so probably we need some links later on, but what comes up with from such collaboration, because this is definitely an outside in.
I mean, she's the brain behind the whole new brand platform. So everything in terms of the shapes, how we use colors, how we use gradients, how we build our motion assets, what kind of angle we do an interview in. Everything is based on her playbook, so to speak.
Amazing. So, but this is like kind of like branding and how you want to be perceived in terms of visuals and tone of voice and all this like kind of brand diamond type of thing. And how do you actually link this efforts to the growth, right? In terms of the actual marketing planning for instance for 2026. You mentioned that a good planning starts from retrospective. But how do you kind of link this, or where it falls under in terms of your overall strategy? Is it just you are so aware of your brand that you know how to use it, or you always constantly need to remind yourself, is it in the right tone? Is it consistent? How do you usually approach this in terms of like linking the brand to the growth? Because this is something that I believe you do quite well, and you're soon wondering.
No, but I think we are quite aligned now in the team in terms of our brand and what it should look like and what it should feels like and what it should sounds like. But we are still, I would say, in a phase where everything going out that are obviously supposed to be on brand is touched by marketing. We haven't yet come to the situation where the whole company knows exactly what we should look and sound like and behave like, and that's natural given that we launched the new brand platform. Not even a year ago. So that is sort of the next steps in terms of rolling out the brand refresh. And then that goes together with assets. It comes together with communication platforms, enabling the sales team, practicing, having clear use cases, etc., etc.
But like, imagine that I'm completely like new to this thing. So, and I'm outside of the marketing world. So, how would you explain how you how your overall playbook or the system, the marketing system, so to say, works at Rillion? Like, what you do to make this whole ship move forward?
In terms of just the brand, you mean?
No, in terms of like the brand growth, and that's very specifically you, because we are obviously you're consistent with the brand. You know what's in it, and you're quite in your team. You're quite aware of what is what and what shouldn't it be, right? But you want to plan the effort for the 2026, for instance, and kind of what makes your process different. And I'm not saying it's better or worse, but definitely different, and that works specifically for you and Rillion, right? Like I'm just new to the team. You need to explain this to me how you work.
I mean, I would say if we sort of take away, hold on, the curtains are going down here.
Oh no! out of the sound.
Yeah, that's the sound. I mean, if we take away sort of the visual part of the brand, because that's only a brand platform in that sense. But what we also do, like for example, obviously the last couple of weeks now, we've been planning 2026. And obviously that starts with some kind of growth ambition for the company as a whole, and creating targets and creating a budget. And then we break that down per department. And we work with OKRs, the OKR framework. So that is also on a company level. And then we break that down per department. But what I then do with my team, and we just came out of 2 days of strategic planning for H1 then next year, is that we look at the targets that we have, and obviously that is then it's clearly defined whether we need to grow X% in the US, X% in the Nordics, X% in the rest of Europe, and we define clear big bets. That we call them big bets. So we define big bets that we should focus on, that we believe will have the biggest impact on the overall growth targets. And then those big bets, back again to your questions, are very connected to how do we make sure to, in an efficient way with these big bets, both have the most impact on the ARR growth, but also then stand out, be scrappy, be different from competitors, and do it in a cost-efficient way. So, and I don't necessarily know if that is different towards what anybody else is doing, but what happens in the team during 2 days is that there's a creative pot stirring around in terms of, okay, what kind of ideas can we come up with? What is different towards the competitors? There's no wrongs, and there's no wrong questions. There's no bad questions, no stupid questions, but we just let the energy and the creativeness and the ideas flow to together define, okay, what are the big bets that we're going to prioritize for next year to impact our overall growth? And from these exercises, then things like the Finance Labs report are born, or our new webinar series format is born, or our maybe next year event series, physical in-person event series is born. That obviously then together with the visual brand, hopefully feels and sounds and looks like very much like Rillion as the sender.
And how do you usually validate this best? Do you kind of give yourself like some time, like 3 to 6 months, to just see if this goes, or how do you decide on how long should you do a certain initiative to ensure it's
I mean, we set
it's possible for the company?
we never do longer plans than half a year, and
Okay.
we evaluate. Uh, we look at the numbers on a weekly and daily basis, but obviously that is too short to evaluate a whole bet. But I would say we evaluate quarterly. And if a bet doesn't fly according to the targets or success metrics that we decided at the beginning, we scrap it and we move on. And either we add another bet or we are fine with the other bets that we have.
Okay. And would you say what is a good ratio of good bets versus bad bets in a company? Do you have any score like this?
I mean, as an example, last spring we had 6 bets and we scrapped 2
Okay.
before the summer, and then we added 2 more for the fall. So all in all, we had more or less 6 bets that we focused on throughout the year.
How big is the team, by the way? Because how big
How
is your
big
team?
bet is?
How big is your team, by the way?
My team. We are 10 people.
Okay, so 6 bets for 10 people. Impressive. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Nice. So I wanted to go back to. So I wanted to ask you a question: how you set goals, but this seems pretty clear to me that you link them to the overall organization, the OKR structure. You've asked me. You said I don't know how it's different. I believe I have the answer how it's different because you might be the ones that are actually doing this in this way, right? So not only like creative, but also like getting into like linking it to the goal. So probably this is the answer. I wanted to ask you about the business value and kind of coming back to your playbook that you have published like a few weeks ago, I believe. You said that you said on one hand you said that we are building a lot of the awareness in terms of the brand and funnel that we really need to position Rillion and in the sense that this is the kind of top of mind thing. And on the other hand, you mentioned that execs love ROI, not only awareness, right? So again, how you link these two? Because getting with the case studies and insights, how we have increased something by 76% or decreased something by 54%. Obviously, like the numbers are great and everyone loves them, but how you make the ROI and raw numbers appealing in terms of the business value, and how does that later link to your overall sales process and the way you work with the customer?
Do you mean the ROI on the product towards the
Yeah, exactly.
how we make
Exactly.
that appealing?
Yeah, exactly.
How we make that appealing? I mean, we try to, from a marketing perspective, but also from a sales perspective in the sales dialogues, we have everything from ROI calculators. I mean, that is obviously very high level to show the customers that they are able to have a positive ROI on the product that they buy from us. But from a marketing perspective, we are trying to break out, I would say, several different data points and numbers that we can utilize in our communication. Not only sort of the overall ROI, but we look at, automation rate if you use our system, or we look at efficiency rates, or we look at fraud detection, or we look at making sure your approval process moves faster. I mean, all of this can obviously be broken down into clear numbers that you can then compare with what you have today. So back again to the fact that our target audience is financial executives, and they many times base their decisions on numbers. We obviously leverage that a lot in our communication.
Right. So did you validate these numbers with the ICPs and the people, like on which numbers they are tracking in their own systems, so you can show this in your communication?
Yes, we asked when we did our big sort of ICP persona project. We asked these questions. What are the gains you're looking for? What do you want to know in terms of numbers that are improving or increasing or decreasing, for that matter? But then we also look at, obviously we can pull data from our own product that we know are important.
Nice. So it is not only so you're focusing on 5 to 7 kind of value drivers that you're comfortable with, and you can show them consistently across various case studies that you're presenting effectively. For some customers, it's 40% increase. For some, it's 70%. But at the end of the day, we are comfortable in saying that, hey, more or less, you have this and this thing decreased by 40 to 70% according to our case studies. This is kind of like the how the story comes out, right?
Mm. Yeah, and also, since we launched something that we call the Finance Labs Hub. I don't know if I told you about that. Obviously it's Rillion that is the sender, but it's not connected to the Rillion product. But what we're doing there is that we're conducting external research with CFOs, both in the US and both in the Nordics. And we ask them a lot of questions about, AI, about automation, about the CFO role and how that is evolving, what's important, what's your challenges, opportunities, yada, yada. So we gain a lot of information based on that we can then validate towards our own product. So when we then drop our reports or we drop our webinars or podcasts, we can both discuss these numbers and get additional information in, but we can also present the numbers based on the survey. And in addition, then if we do a marketing campaign, we can say, oh, and by the way, if you use Rillion, we will help you with this number that we also told you in this survey based on external data was important, blah, blah, blah.
Well, okay. But do you gather them like via internal panel that you're building and a panel of experts, or this is kind of more organized?
The survey data we gather through survey tools, and then we monthly do in-depth interviews with CFOs.
But do you use any external agencies for that, or you just keep it in house in terms of like the surveying process?
Survey, we use external tools.
Okay. But
and for the product data, we use tools that we have, with our product, obviously, and then the CFO interviews we do ourselves.
So basically, what I hear from you is that your kind of growth playbook relies on being very consistent, very ICP focused, and kind of ensuring. I believe that like your growth playbook is kind of like a good SEO content, that all these things should, be linked to each other, like interlinks, so to say. And I believe this is something that that got me like kind of that inspired me, because you said that you're talking to a CFO that was a client, or for instance, and you mentioned a report. It influences how the new report is created, and by the way, is going to be shipped to people via webinar or newsletter, and so it's all these things. So how you don't lose track of it? So how your team doesn't lose track of it? This is something like on your assets, on the assets repository that you have, and there are like hundreds of assets, if not thousands, already in your availability. How your people don't manage to not lose track over it?
That's our job.
I know, but like for most people I talk to, this is like the hardest part.
But we obviously all the content assets that we have, we build a hub for that, both obviously for our own sake, but also for the people that do want to find the information, and then obviously for SEO purposes. But then what you were also describing, I would say, are typical, marketing loops, and this is definitely part of our job to make sure how can we loop everything together in the right time towards the the right prospect so that they are fed with the relevant information or insights when they need it. And to be able to do that, you need to have the right kind of thought leadership content so that you come out trustworthy, at the end of the day. And I mean, obviously, that is not something that is done in a day's time. It takes planning, and it takes a lot of creation, and it takes a lot of production. But that's definitely what we do. That's our job.
I believe you're too humble, and you underappreciate the incompetence of the market, like in general. I believe this is kind of the thought I have. Like, so to kind of to wrap it up, and are there any new ventures, new areas of growth for 2026? Obviously, AI, yes. But if it's an AI, for instance, it is maybe one thing. But are there any new avenues for growth that might be exciting for SaaS marketing leaders for 2026? But what you said is something very. It was like this in like 2000, 2010, 2020. It was always the same: ICP, consistency, all this stuff. But do you think that the overall playbook is going to be revolutionized, or is just like yet another evolution of how we do stuff in terms of like 2026 and so on?
I mean, what I nag about to my team, I mean, and you're right, obviously AI, you can't sort of miss that train. But because of AI happening right now, I think it's even more important to remember to, own your creativity, to own your personality, to own your authenticity. I mean, there's a reason we send our best sales reps in the US to events with fairy wings on.
The big guys.
The big guys. Exactly. Because that can never, ever be done by AI. And it will always stand out, and it will always be different. And you have to sort of find that different ingredient and dare to sort of hold on to that. I don't know if it answers your question, but I definitely think the more we move into the AI era, and I mean, everything's going to be impacted, everything's going to be upside down. Our business with automated finance processes, of course, it's going to be impacted by AI, and we invest a lot in that. But I think in combination, here and now, you have to dare to hold your stance and hold your personality and your core as a company, because that is still what matters and shines through when we do business with. We are still doing business with humans here. Then we'll see for how long we do that, but we are still
same as ever. Same as ever.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that the more we move into AI, the more we need to stay like human. Obviously, this is kind of like one insight, and the second is like how contrarian it is to actually all this 989 workflow automations buzzwords you get all the time, with how I automated my entire marketing team with this awesome ChatGPT agent, and how naive this overall proposition is versus to the things that you actually doing, which is like very at the end of the day customer oriented, and that's pretty much the foundation.
You have to. I mean, I saw this really interesting adoption curve of AI. It was yesterday or Monday, I don't remember. And what it said was that like marketing as a domain or as a department has come quite far when it comes to adopting AI to our own ways of working. But if you look at finance, they are quite far behind, and they are just in the beginning of the adoption curve. And then you might ask questions, okay, why is it like that? And blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, I'm not here to answer that. But we still, as a company, need to remember, okay, that's where our target audience is. So how do we adapt or apply that on our sales motions and on our marketing motions and our product motions, instead of thinking that they are here and maybe doing something too much or too quick, not necessarily getting them on board. But what we do want to do is obviously take their hand and help them through and do this together. But then that's a balance to understand what kind of company are you and what kind of target audience do you have and your customers, and then make sure that you approach it in the right way.
Effectively not being smarter than their audience, right? Because this is effectively not the right way to do it. So totally on that. Anyway, Frida, like we're as discussed, we plan to make it like about 40 minutes of the overall conversation. Let me just paraphrase a few things, and maybe you can add some things. So your growth tactics are kind of being genuine, being in the like connecting the brand with a super consistent effort, very structured, and connected to the overall OKR strategy on the things how you do it. You try to make things genuine. But you still, with that, you still remain a certain artsiness to it, which is very, very often forgotten. Obviously, it's analytical, it's curated, it's like things that you basically check on a weekly and daily basis and quarterly reviews. This whole rigorous process you have explained. This I get. And is there anything that I'm missing in it? Something that you would maybe you want me to clarify, or the thing that you're getting out of it, and also for the 2026?
I think that was very well. Did you have notes? Did you read that from notes, or did you remember that by?
I remember that. Like that's my place. I remember stuff. When I read something, I hear something, I remember. That's my superpower.
Good. No, that was very good summarized. Definitely.
Great. One of the best conversations I've had in a long time. So thank Frida for finding the time and agreeing to be with us today.
Thank you.
And everyone, definitely follow Frida. Amazing content, amazing team, amazing company. Thank you, and see you on the road. Probably. Take care.
See you. Take care.